Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. This week we're talking about change, challenge, the portal, the end of the season, and mindset moves to help us finish the year strong. I mean, let's face it, this time of the year for coaches, particularly spring sport coaches who have just wrapped up the conference season, maybe not those going on to the NCAA tournament, but most of us, all but 64 of us in softball or other sports, are looking behind and they're looking ahead. And with that comes a lot of emotion. We are sad to see our seniors go. We are tired. We are excited to spend a little bit of time with our family that we didn't have over the past several months traveling all over the country. And if we're human, there's also maybe some frustration, some reflection, some regret, some resentment. Let's face it, things happen throughout the season that we carry with us. And sometimes the end brings all this to a culmination where we have to deal with things because it's the end. And that makes things hard. No matter how good our season was, we are going to be dealing with people leaving. Some because it's time and some because they choose to. And that change is difficult for us. Change is hard. We don't like change, even if it's going to make us better. I look at myself sometimes as lucky to have gotten out of Division I coaching before the portal really came into play. Now, no question, people left, and it was really hard. Every time someone left, I thought, oh my gosh, I have really failed them. And then a national championship coach told me, she said, when someone leaves, you should celebrate it because it's good. They didn't want to be there. It's good for them to go. I still had a hard time dealing with that. But the truth of it is, then there weren't social media posts or social media channels, if you will, pages that had kid after kid after kid after kid saying, after much thought and consideration, I have decided to transfer. And we know that this is hard. And it's not the only thing at the end of the year that's hard. We're looking at the things that went well. We're looking at the things that didn't go well. We're really hard on ourselves at the end. Kids leave, kids are coming in, we're excited, we're a little bit concerned maybe at times. And then we have exit interviews, which if you coach a female sport or a women's sport, those seem to be more plentiful than those of you that coach men's sports. But it is what it is. But the truth of it is, when we look at this sort of portal season right now, where people are trying to decide whether to stay or go, it's emotional for both sides. And here's something I didn't even think about. So I'm teaching the class Positive Team Culture. It's over obviously now at the University of Akron. And we're talking about the portal and how we build culture with kids coming and going so often anymore. But the thing that hit me in this conversation was that this generation knows nothing different than people coming and going. It's what they've been doing in summer ball. It's what they sometimes do in high school. And it's normal for them. They don't look at it one way or the other. It's just how things go. They don't look at it as good or bad. It just is. Those of us in this profession and coaching that have been in it for a really long time don't see it that way. We're the ones that have the big problem with it. I'm not saying the portal is good. I'm just saying that there are two different ways to look at this. And as I said just a second ago, regardless, it's emotional for everyone. The end is emotional for everyone. The end of anything tends to be emotional. And good or bad, when kids enter the portal, it feels like a breakup. And even if we knew that breakup was coming, it's still difficult. When someone leaves, it's hard, and we know that. But it's a weird thing to think about, but what we're feeling when things change, whether it's our seniors leaving, our fifth-year senior leaving, and sometimes kids were places for 6 years with COVID, it's grief. Change brings about strong emotion, even when we know it's part of the game. And it is part of the game. It's just the way that it is. So what can help us? Well, one thing that can help us is that we can name it to tame it. We have to acknowledge how we're feeling. And it's not just mad or frustrated, it's everything. It could be a million different emotions. And Lieberman et al. In a study say that Labeling our emotions reduces amygdala activity. We know that's where our emotion is housed. And it increases prefrontal cortex activity, our thinking brain. So the bottom line is that more thinking brain leads to better decisions. The other thing that we need to do when we're naming these emotions is talk about it the way that the Irish talk about it. I heard it once said that the Irish say, sadness has come upon me. Not I'm sad. Sadness has come upon me. Well, why would they use those terms? I'm assuming because sadness comes upon me and sadness leaves me. It's not a characteristic. It's a temporary feeling or state of being. It's not who I am. It's how I feel at the moment. So when we're talking about being, I'm mad or I'm frustrated, you're not mad and I'm not mad. I'm Julie who feels frustrated. So just changing those semantics just a little bit, using different words. We know the power of words. They predict and perpetuate performance, according to Trevor Moawad. But when we change those words just enough to say, I feel this, and we acknowledge it, it moves that emotion, it sort of tamps that down a little bit and allows us to use our thinking brain, which is better for leading. Another thing we need to be thinking about is that our complaining brain isn't pretty. When we complain, it literally changes the function of our brain. A Stanford study showed that complaining for just 30 minutes a day changes the size of your hippocampus. Are you kidding me? That is what is critical to problem solving and emotional regulation. And as soon as I read that, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. Complaining feels good. It actually helps build relationships in some ways. But after that initial relationship is set, it is harmful. And we know that. We know that it is harmful. But it changes our brain. It makes us better at finding what's wrong. And we know that that probably goes against our values. It probably goes against what our expectations for ourselves and everyone around us. But we're not going to stop complaining. We know that. Lots of complaining went on in the Styles Athletic Fieldhouse in the softball office complex. It did. Whether it was helpful or not, obviously it wasn't helpful. But the bottom line is it changes our brain and we need to know that. So what can we do? Well, we can set a complaint limit. Say, I'm going to complain for 60 seconds. And as soon as that complaining is over, I am going to ask the question, what is one thing I can do to move this forward? Questions force our brains to look for solutions. Which leads us to our next tool. We can use a problem solutions board. On this side, we write down the problems. On this side, we force ourselves to look for solutions. Dr. Ethan Cross from Michigan says that if we can move one thing within 60 seconds of our thinking about it, from the problem side of the board to the solution side of the board, we become more productive. We move from rumination mode to action mode. And that's where we want to be a good leader. Another thing we need to think about at this time of the year is that we need to be on constant alert for the stories that we're telling ourselves. We are masterful storytellers. And most of our stories are based on past experiences, fear, or frustration. And Dr. Brené Brown says that when we tell ourselves stories, they have a tendency to lean toward the negative. It's a survival technique that is part of our brain. We are building narratives. They call it narrative construction to help us make sense of what's going on around us. So if someone goes in the portal or someone doesn't respond the way that you think that you thought they would in the end of the year meeting, or you're reading your end of the year evaluations, we are creating stories about all of this. And a lot of the stories are bigger than what reality really is. So Dr. Brown says that when we're under stress, right, our brain is wired to create narratives that tend to be more negative. And she says that if we can stop when we get hijacked like that and say this, the story I'm telling myself is. The story I'm telling myself is, and then you acknowledge the fact that you have made up this story, partially based on your experience, not always based on fact, but based on the situation that's going on, we can help get ourselves out of that. She calls it the name that story tool. Then we ask, what do I know for sure? What assumptions am I making? What else might be true? And what would I say to a friend in this situation? This helps interrupt automatic thinking. It helps calm down that amygdala. It helps bring us back to logical thinking. Because if we don't check the story runs us. But if we can ask ourselves questions and we can say exactly the story I'm telling myself is, we start to take that pen back and we write the story actually more accurately, I should say. So all of these things sort of go together. We think about how to manage when we get emotionally hijacked based on the environment around us or based on our emotion in general. And then finally, if we need to get back on track and lead at our best, we can use cognitive reappraisal. Basically, this strategy helps us reframe a situation. So instead of saying she left because she thinks, I don't know what I'm doing, or she left because of this or that, we reappraise the situation that says she left because she chose to go grow somewhere else. That does not negate the opportunities that we presented for her here, or the things that we did that were positive for her here. Both of those things can be true. We could have done our very best for someone and they still decide to leave. And if we can reappraise that and just get out of that and sort of almost victim thinking in a way, to say she left because of this and this and this and this, or the million reasons that she could have left her parents, she wasn't playing, she didn't like this. If we can say she left to help herself grow, we don't want that to not be an option for kids, right? But that alone does not negate the fact that we did as much as we could for her in this opportunity. And that is proven to improve mood, to lead to more productive behavior. All good for leading. So, no matter if you came off of a winning season or you came off of a losing season, there is going to be challenge. No matter if you came off of a winning season or you came off of a losing season, there are things to celebrate. No matter if half of your people went in the portal or everyone is coming back, the good and the bad coexist. We have a tendency to focus on the things that were hard. I remember Dr. Ziegler, our sports psychologist, told me, you're focusing on this one thing and you have all this that's going well. All of this is going the way you want it to go, and this is getting your attention. So if we can use some of these tools to help us be more mindful of what stories we're telling ourselves and how we can reappraise things and how we can move things from the problems to the solution board and how we can name our emotion so that we can tame it and manage it, we can feel better about what's right in front of us. And that's what's most important. If we can take 60 seconds to acknowledge what's hard, if we can take 60 more seconds to find a solution, and if we can take 60 more seconds to tell a different story, we're going to put ourselves in a much better position to lead whoever is there and get them ready for whatever is next. So, change is hard. We don't like it. Ends are hard. We don't like them. But everything that has been good in our lives has come from some sort of change. You didn't get where you are by staying the same. Change doesn't mean it's going downhill. Change means you get a new opportunity. And if you can use a few of these tools to work yourself through them, I bet you'll find that change worked in your favor. If you'd like to talk about this or any other thing with mental performance, or you're looking to put in a program for your team this year, please shoot me an email, juliej@ssbperformance.com. I'd love to connect. And don't forget, or I should say remember, because we want to talk about what we want, remember to tune in this Friday to Game Changers Athlete Edition with Courtney Harmon and Julie Jones. We've got Michael Blair from the NFL, a Jamaican bobsled guy, amazing human being. It's a great story. So tune in and listen and share with your friends. We'd appreciate it. Until next week, Have a great week.